What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben and welcome back to the bench for a brand new episode here on Military Mondays. We are jumping in today, guys, on the Demon. We're going to start putting some glue and plastic together, see what we can do. So let's waste no time. Let's get started. Now, for the last couple of days, I have been poring over these references, trying to learn all I can about the Demon. And it is actually a very interesting story. This is a very colorful jet for sure. Trying to focus mostly on the 2M version because that's what we're going to be trying to build out of this kit. And it looks like the -2M was designed to fire the Sparrow 1 missile. And that was a terrible missile according to this book. Now, what we know is that since the 2M used a very particular type of radar, the instrument panel actually looked a little bit different. According to this gentleman here, they didn't have the radar scope. And if you look back at the actual 2 and the 2N instrument panels, you see a very prominent radar scope in the upper right-hand corner. Now, according to my references, the -2 and the -2N had that radar scope, but the -2M did not. And I honestly have no idea what to do because the kit part has that radar scope very prominently displayed in the upper right corner of the panel. Now we can look back, we can look at the -1, which was phased out of production very quickly. You notice no radar scope, but then right here on the -2, we have the radar scope. So what are we going to do? Now we do have a gun sight here on the upper left coping, and according to my references, all the information was actually fed from the radar to the gun sight there in the 2M. It did not have the radar scope. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, and I don't see a gun sight listed here in the kit either. So yeah, we've got a little bit of some trouble. I'm not really sure what to do. Now, going back to my detail and scale reference and reading a little bit more about this, it actually says numerous times that the pilots reported that there was no radar scope in the -2M, meaning that what we have here in the kit is most likely incorrect. What it actually looks like for the -2M, I have no idea, because I cannot find a single picture to show any of the different transitions. Even looking at some color photos here of a restored 2M, it actually has a different looking instrument panel and says it was more akin to a 2 and a 2N and not the 2M. The 2M didn't have the radar scope. What it had there in place of that, I have no idea. So we're just going to have to wing it, and I'm not really sure what to do with that. And feel free to chime in. If anyone happens to have a picture of a 2M, by all means, let me know. But I'm pretty sure we have a couple of options. We can either A, remove the radar scope entirely, or B, we can come in there and de-emphasize it by just painting it black and not worrying about it. Or C, we can just say, the heck with it and build it exactly out of the box, even though it is probably incorrect. Those are my three options as far as I can tell. And since we are trying to build an early 2M, what we have here in this picture, that means we cannot use mid-air refueling probe package that would not have been installed yet, and we won't have any wing spoilers. So those two parts, we got to drop them. But I say we go ahead and jump in here to our first time lapse and start working on the cockpit floor and the ejection seat. Now we're going to go ahead and use the kit supplied part for that because it is the correct version. The later version of Demons would have actually had these ejection seats replaced with Martin Baker seats. But because this is an early version of a 2M, at least that's what I'm hoping for, we're going to go ahead and use the kit part, which is the McDonald's seat. So we are looking good. Let's start having some fun, start building up everything, add in some wires, scratch build some parts. Let's see what we can do. Let's go ahead and get this Demon rolling. And we are back. So far so good. We went ahead and added a lot of wires and parts and pieces and glued together the ejection seat and a little bit of the cockpit floor. So we're going to go ahead and move over now to the front nose gear wheel bay, and that's going to be probably fairly simple. It's just 4 walls and a floor. So that is it. The cool thing is they already have a ton of detail molded into the sidewalls, so I shouldn't have to do a lot of extra scratch building. Now I might add a wire or two in there at some point, but for right now, we're just going to put it together and we're going to see what it looks like. At least then I can add in more later if I need more detail, or if it's good, we'll probably just leave it and move on to the next section. So let's go ahead and jump in there to our next time lapse, start working on that landing gear bay. And also we're going to grab the rear decking right behind the pilot. We're going to do a little bit of building on that. So that should be fun as well. We've got my references with a lot of nice clear line drawings and pictures. So we are ready to go. Let's go ahead and add in some more parts, have some more fun. Let's push on. All right, everybody. So we are back, and this is what we've got so far. As you can see, we've got our wheel bay looking pretty snazzy. Lots of detail in there, already molded in, so that's super helpful. We've got our cockpit floor with our ejection seat, also looking pretty good. I did add some wires and some spare parts, so I'm loving that. And lastly, we have our rear decking right behind the cockpit, and I tried to make it look fairly accurate based on my references, so yeah, not too bad. Get you a real quick zoom in here. As you can see, the cockpit floor looks all right. We've got the seat glued into place. We had to go ahead and plug a couple of ejection pin marks on the inner portions of these side rails, but I'm hoping to go ahead and throw some seat belts over that at some point, which should hopefully help to hide that little indentation. I did go ahead and sand them down though, so I think we should be pretty decent. I did also install the headrest, though I actually installed it vertically instead of horizontally, because it actually looked a bit better that way as opposed to what it told you to do in the kit. Then of course, as you can see, I added in some wires here using some 0.3mm solder, just a couple here and there based on references and line drawings. And I added in our oxygen hose and a G-suit attachment point as well. I will have to go ahead and tack them in, paint them up, and I think we'll be good to go with those, adding in just a little bit of extra spice. Then regarding the rear bulkhead, I did cut off this lip here on the bottom of the cockpit floor because this did not want to fit in there with that. It actually kicked it out and we had a space between the seat and the bulkhead. According to my references, there is no space there, so I went ahead and shaved that off, trimmed down the back of the chair a little bit, and yeah, we are looking good. For the front wheel bay, as you can see, real simple construction, 4 walls and a floor. But we do have a lot of detail and bulkheads already kind of molded there into the plastic parts. So I think it looks pretty good. I don't think we'll have to do a lot of work there. We'll know more once we get the landing gear attached. But yeah, so far so good. And for the rear decking right behind the cockpit, as you can see, I added in some other parts and pieces, added in some wires, and yeah, I think it looks pretty cool. Did add in some extra spare parts, like this little clear dome right here. I added in some wires kind of coming around different parts and pieces, and some wires in the back decking as well. I did add some structural detailing here with this piece of styrene, and I went ahead and added in a couple other parts just to make it look a little bit more detailed. There are some lightning holes underneath this, but I did not drill them out because you're not going to see them. There's no point. And I'm hoping to go ahead and be able to string a little bit of wire once I hook this into the canopy, of course, from this front little roller right here across to the back of the seat. You do see that in the references, so I want to go ahead and try to reproduce that here in the model. I'm not sure if you're really going to be able to see it though. It might be slightly out of scale, but it might be kind of fun to go ahead and put in there anyway. So I think we're going to jump in here to the next little section, and real quick, I want to go ahead and do some work here on the vents or the fuselage. Now, the Demon has a couple of very prominent vents. We have one right here. As you can see, it's just barely kind of indented into the plastic. So I want to go ahead and drill that out. And we have this square one at the upper portion of that. And this square one is probably more important because if you look at the references, you always see black streaks coming out of those vents. So I want to go ahead and reproduce that at some point. We want to work on this smaller vent first because it should be easier. It's round. We can drill it out and have some fun. So let's go ahead and get this all wrapped up. Let's keep it rolling. All right, everybody, we are back, and that is it for us today. We went ahead and drilled out the 2 vents here on the fuselage. Those look great. I actually just poked them out with my drill bit, and then I added in a small section of pipe on the inside of that using an old Q-tip. So yeah, worked out decently. We've got some 3D effects there for that vent. We'll tackle the square one next time, but yeah, so far we're on the right track. But that is it, guys. Thank you so much for joining us here. The Demon is coming right along, and we will go ahead and see you back here on episode number 3. So until then, you know the drill. Go out there and get yourself some bench time. Have some fun. Build something cool. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.